It was getting to the point where I didn't have anything to wear. I just couldn't get the weight off. Tried a load of fad diets. It's not just about diet. It's not just about exercise. You've got everything covered. I'm basically feeling a lot fitter and a lot healthier. When I first started, I struggled to lift a tiny weight.
Welcome to the Trinity podcast, and my name is Laura. I am a senior support coach here at Trinity, and I have a really special interview today with client Lynsey, who has seen incredible changes since joining in August 2024. So far, Lynsey's seen a huge drop from a size 20 to 16. She's fitting back into a lot of her old clothes and even mentioned that her jeans are sliding down. She's lost 15 kg, she's fitter, she's enjoying walking, better energy levels, and my favourite one is that her son can't beat her in an arm wrestling match, even saying, "Mum, you're so strong." So we've got so much to talk about. So without further ado, Lynsey, welcome to the podcast. So give us an introduction. Who are you and where do you come from?
Thank you. I'm Lynsey. Basically, I live in Newport, South Wales, and I work full time as well as being a mother and have a very busy life. So obviously, often it's challenging with chocolate and whatever. So I must admit, I did put on quite a lot of weight over the last few years. So hence coming to Trinity in August.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lynsey. So yeah, let's jump on what you just said there about where were you before you started Trinity? What was your life like?
Basically, I was very busy, but it was getting to the point where I didn't have anything to wear, or I was wearing like the same things, and I was trying really hard. I did start trying to do spin. I did start trying to do, like I said, I was doing spin. I was doing some high intensity stuff, but I do struggle because of an injury. I can't actually do any running. And when I was younger, I used to do a lot of running, and I couldn't. So I just found that I just couldn't get the weight off. Tried a load of fad diets. They did work for a while. I did this one where you only eat avocados for about 3 months. And of course it worked. I lost the weight. But I got to the point I just couldn't do it anymore. And then, of course, I put all the weight back on. Do you know what I mean? Because literally I was just eating an avocado for breakfast, avocado for lunch, and it was very, very restricted. And now, do you know, I can hardly touch avocados.
I was going to ask, can you eat that?
Yeah, it worked really well, but I could not. I cannot now hardly bring myself to touch avocados because I think I ate them so much. So it was a case of I needed to find something. And I kept listening. There was adverts on YouTube. And also I was listening to a lot of the talks with other women saying how much they'd lost. And there's some free podcasts as well online. So I found those out and I was reading up about the perimenopause and the menopause. And I think it was taking me a while to realise that I was at that stage in my life. And that maybe that was the issue. And then basically I had some photos done at my children's birthday party because I'd started hating photos, so I was avoiding the camera. And my mum took a photo of me with the snakes because we had like a reptile man visit the house. And I looked at the photo and I thought, that's not me. I did not recognise myself. I looked really fat, really like a middle-aged mom, basically. But I just looked at it and I just thought, you know, I thought that day I looked good in the mirror, but when I looked at the photo, I felt so unhappy with how big I looked, and I thought I've got to do something. But also I was struggling. You know, I've got a bad leg anyway, and with the extra weight, that was hurting walking. I was struggling with stairs. I am still getting over. I had long COVID a couple of years ago, so I was struggling with that. And just generally all around. And I was trying to do it on my own, and I just found I couldn't. You know, you'd have a crap day and you'd come home and you'd have to reach for the chocolate. But like I said, I was trying to do stuff, but it just wasn't working.
Yeah. And you were trying and, you know, doing what maybe used to work. I mean, you mentioned about, you know, being quite active. You used to like running, did you say? You liked running?
Yeah, years ago I used to be a runner, and then I fractured my femur, so I can't actually physically run anymore because it is quite painful sometimes. But obviously carrying the extra weight, as I've got older, it's got worse. That's not helping. So yeah, it was really frustrating because when I was younger, I used to carry the weight off really easy, and because I was tall, even if I put weight on, no one noticed it. But I think since COVID, when lockdown started, I was 14 stone. I always remember that. And then by the time lockdown finished, I was about 17 stone. So and then my weight was going up and down with these fad diets, but it was never getting back down to what it was.
It's quite interesting what you said at the start as well about not really noticing that you were in menopause. This is quite a common thing that I hear a lot, because you might feel the same, and quite a lot of symptoms can go under the radar for a while, and your body's changing, and what you used to do isn't working anymore, and you're trying these diets. So then you come across Trinity, and you mentioned about seeing the YouTube video. What did you think? What were your first impressions of Trinity?
Well, obviously the adverts come up all the time, but I must admit, I'd be listening to it thinking, yeah, you are right. When you'd say about, what about having a wardrobe full of clothes that you can't fit into? And I'd think, well, yeah, that's the case. Because, I've got so many clothes, and I've got some really nice clothes that I refuse to get rid of. Designer clothes from years ago, Cam Millen, Ted Baker, stuff that I just was like, I was not getting rid of, even though I couldn't fit into them. And so I'd listen to the advert, and I think he's right, struggling in that. But then at the same time, I'd be thinking, well, I can do it myself. I think part of me, obviously, money wise, I was thinking, I don't really want to spend the money on that. And also it was having the time and the hassle. So I think that's why initially I was a bit reluctant, but I did start listening to the podcast. And like I said, I was listening to what he was saying, and I was thinking, well, actually that makes sense. What he was saying about the hormones and about estrogen levels and your testosterone. And also when he said about this, spin and stuff like that doesn't work for you anymore. Now, I knew I'd been trying the spin, and I was doing like half-an-hour sessions, coming off sweating, and I still weren't losing anything. So I realized that made me realize that he was right. And then I did actually look at joining in the March or April before I joined. But I must admit, when I was the initial consultation, when I was advised about how much, what I should have done was asked him to explain what you get for your money. But he initially said how much it costs. And of course, that kind of put me off initially. And then the conversation finished. Whereas I think what I should have done was carried on listening. Whereas when I came back to you in the August, I think it was the 1st of August, something like that, I had the conversation on the Saturday. And I said to the guy, right, tell me what you get for this. And he explained what was involved in the membership. And I realised it was more than just online videos. It was more than just calorie counting. It was a whole lifestyle. And I think what resonated with me was the fact of being able to invest in yourself, because at the end of the day, as a mom, I spend all the money. The chins have, piano lessons, they have guitar lessons, they do athletics, they do this, they do that. I spend a lot of money on them, but you don't, as they get old, you don't spend it on you. You think, well, I've got house bills to pay. And then I thought, no, do you know what? It's not helping them having an unfit mom. And also I realised it was very important for my long-term health I needed to get it under control now, because I think health-wise it wasn't going to do me any good in the future.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I think it's a really valid concern about wanting to spend money on yourself, like you described, especially as a mom who runs a household, and you're like, oh, I can't justify that. But of course, like you just said, you can, because your health is the only one you have. So you join, you meet your coach, Natasha, and you start the process. So how did you start? How did you find the first beginning part of the program?
The workouts initially were really, you do get broken into them gently. I found the first 2 weeks really hard with the food, because you had to do the no dairy, no gluten, no sugar. So that first 2 weeks was probably the hardest in terms of food, because one of the things I like about this plan is once you're into it, you can pretty much eat everything. It's just about control and moderation and measuring it. Whereas all the other diets, like I said, the others was avocado only, so you're not limited on this in the sense that, if you have like a chocolate, something, whatever, it just means you just record that and make sure you don't exceed your calories elsewhere. Do you see what I mean? So you can still have stuff. The workouts, when I started, some of them were really hard for me, because it was a different form of workout to what I was used to. like lunges, and I still hate lunges.
No one likes lunges.
And I can't do one-sided things. My balance is rubbish, and I'm so glad I was doing it at home and that no one could see, because I'm sure they'd fall about laughing if they saw sometimes what happens. But yeah, so no, the workout's really good. What I like about the workouts is they change every 4 weeks. So the one good thing is that after week 2, week 3, week 4, you've already done it. So you're sort of almost familiar with the workout. But also, if there's a workout you don't like, or if you start getting bored, week 5, it changes, because every 4 weeks the workouts change. So you can't get too bored, and it makes it more interesting. I do find that because it's minimum 3 to 4 workouts, sometimes there'll be a workout I hate, and then there'll be one of the workouts I like. Like at the moment, I hate workout 1 of the session I'm on. I really don't like it. But workout 2, I really like. And that's because I think it's got stuff in that I can do, and I'm not trying to balance myself, and I find it a bit easier. So I've definitely got workouts that I prefer, and then there's workouts that I'm like, oh, just get through this one.
I feel the same. I mean, you said just before this call, when we were having our little chat before, you said to me, so you're not very well this week, but you said this is the first week that you've not done your 3 workouts in the whole time. What an achievement. So even though there's workouts that you're like, God, I don't like this, you still do them.
Yeah, that was my target when I started. I've said to myself, you have to do the minimum 3. And that's the other thing I like about Trinity is it's a minimum 3. And they give you the 4. So some weeks I've done the 4. And then also, if you're short of time, you've got the shorter workouts and the longer workouts. You've got the 30-minute or the 45-minute workout, or sometimes 50. So you have the option. So they are right. You can fit it in. And also, when I've been on holiday, I've been able to do the travel workouts. So I think the travel workouts are essential. And the fact that you only have to take your band with you. Now, I know it has irritated the life out of my mum, because I think she's been almost like the attitude of, oh, well, you're on holiday, why are you bothering to do a workout? But I've been like, no, I've got to keep it up, because she probably is my worst, like, as in she likes her food and she encourages me with the food. And, basically she's always struggled with her weight, and she's definitely struggling at the moment. So when I'm working out, she doesn't mean to, but sometimes I can almost sense oh, well, why are you bothering? Even though she's saying, oh, you're doing really well, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, I'll go home to visit her, and there'll be like red laces in my bedroom, or Toblerone, or, chocolate or something. Oh, I bought you this, I bought you that. So she's trying to be helpful, but she's kind of not being helpful, but it's not because she doesn't mean to be helpful. So bless her. So
I mean, that's so sweet, isn't it? I don't think it's an uncommon thing, because a lot of people show affection through food. We all love food. God, who doesn't love like Toblerone? But I think, like you say, it's about having the majority of the time you stick to it. I mean, and you absolutely have. And I think that's amazing. And have you, sticking with the workouts just for this moment, have you seen a strength progression, since starting, when you said it was really difficult, to now?
Imagine living in a home that you've cherished for years.
You've done your best to keep it in good condition,
But no matter how much you clean, paint or repair,
the problems keep piling up.
the cracks are showing, the roof is leaking, and it feels like everything is getting worse despite your best efforts.
For many women, losing weight around menopause feels just like that.
You've tried diets, workouts and advice,
But the results don't come and the frustration keeps growing.
That's where our Fit Over 40 private coaching program comes in.
Think of us as your expert renovation team.
We know exactly how to fix the root issues, rebuild your confidence, and create lasting results, just like restoring a home to its best condition.
If you're ready to finally see results that last, click the link in the description below now. Let us help you restore the body and the life you deserve.
Oh, definitely. When I first started, I struggled to lift a tiny weight, whereas now at the moment, I'm loving it. And I must admit, my kettlebells have just replicated. My husband is like, because every time he comes in the front room, there's a new kettlebell. He's like, are they reproducing? So, I've literally recently had a delivery of a 14K, because on the upper lift, I was trying to go, the overhead press, I was trying to go from a 12 to a 16, and I think that was too much. So I ended up buying a 14. So I've now got a 12, 14, I've got 4, 8, 10, 12, 14, a 16, a 20, a 24, and a 28. So, but it means it gives you variety. But the other thing is, it means that if I'm having a day where I'm not feeling too good, there are days when I do drop down a weight again. So at least I'm still doing something. And so having the weight options gives me that. It gives me that option. Do you know what I mean? I'm not limited. And then obviously if I'm feeling good, then I will push myself and go for the higher weight.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful attitude to have about, instead of being all or nothing. You know, you talked about doing a shorter workout if you're short on time, or a longer workout, or a heavier weight or a lighter weight, and you've clearly adjusted. I mean, to have a 28 kg kettlebell in your house that you could lift, I think is pretty.
You should have seen the man when he delivered it. It's funny. And my husband was trying to prove that he was strong, so he nearly gave himself a hernia, I think, carrying it up to my bedroom. So this has been delivered.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant. And now touching a little bit more on the food side of things, you mentioned when you first started that it would be, you know, you'd come home, chocolate, you know, that was kind of like almost like a coping strategy. How have you managed to kind of shift that to see the results you have?
I think it's helped with the group talks. There's been we have a weekly group chat, and that has really helped me in terms of Rob saying, you know, about it doesn't have to be all or nothing, you don't have to be perfect, but also about tactics that you can use. And the other thing is, I've got a little treat to myself, which is my protein powder shakes. I've got a chocolate protein powder that I get from, you know, Impact, I think it is from, that Natasha recommended. And I have that with a little bit of peanut butter and with almond milk. And it's like a Snickers milkshake.
Oh,
so, you know, but you're having your protein. So in a way, that having that helps. So I have little, what I call cheats, if you see what I mean. It's like, for example, I love my bagels, and I used to have, you know, the really normal bagels that are really fattening, whereas now I have the high protein Warburton ones. So I've sort of gone out my way to find some substitutes for stuff that I like. So I'm not depriving myself, but I'm kind of trying to do it the healthier way, if you see what I mean.
Smart. Yeah.
You know, so like I said, I'm not cheating myself, but I'm doing it in a different way, and then that way you get more benefit. And the other thing I've learned on this is about having more protein. So a lot of stuff I buy now is high protein stuff, because I've recognised that is really important, especially at my age, because of bone density.
Oh, I think we're so used to, with diets, cutting things out, cut things down, cut things out, don't have this, don't have that. We forget the things that you desperately need, and protein is, it takes a bit of thought, but like you've just said, you know, you can still have your, you know, what you like, which is like the chocolatey hit, but you've made it protein, or your bagel, but you've made it protein. And I think it's very smart. So, I mean, I kind of introduced it at the beginning with all of the amazing results you've seen, but how has your life changed since doing this process?
I'm basically feeling a lot fitter and a lot healthier. I definitely can cope more at work, and people at work have actually said, "Wow, you're looking really good." And even we went on holiday recently, and I was actually quite happy to have a photo taken, because I hadn't realised how few photos I'd had in the last couple of years with the children. So I'm happy again to have my photo taken, and I think that's made a difference. And also I'm going to be going swimming this weekend with the children, because I'm taking them to Bluestone. And last year I wouldn't have gone swimming with them because I didn't like myself in a swimsuit. Whereas this year I'm taking my swimsuit, and my plan is to join them in the swimming pool. So it's made a big difference. And also I've hired myself a bike as well as them. So it's making a big difference, because it means I can be more active with the children and do stuff.
Oh, Lynsey, that's absolutely amazing. I love that it's kind of opened up a world that you are now happy to be involved in, you know, cycling, swimming, you know, you're not holding yourself back. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And how helpful have you found Natasha in this process? So you have a coach who's been with you on this journey. You know, you mentioned about what you get in the membership, and one of the things is you have a coach who's with you every step of the way. So how helpful has she been in your journey?
She's very good. We have the weekly chat, but also if you need something in between, you can message her on WhatsApp and she will come back to you. I think the other day I was asking her, because obviously where I'm lifting so heavy, I'm considering going up to a barbell now. So she basically sent me a load of recommendations, because I was like, well, what barbell would I use? So I do find she's very good if I need anything. She knows I'm pretty good anyway, but if I am struggling, I can message her and she will reply to me. And then also, I think that weekly call does help. It does keep you accountable, because you have a weekly check-in. And if you don't check in, Trinity will email you and say, oh, you haven't checked in. But it is good, because it does keep you on the straight and narrow, and it does make you stick to it, if you see what I mean. Because sometimes, like everyone, you have times where you just think, oh, I can't be bothered. Do you know what I mean? But I think knowing that you've got the weekly check-in keeps you accountable.
Definitely does. Yeah, everyone has moments where we just don't want to, but having that person to go, think of yourself, remember why you're doing it, how to scale things up and down is important. Progress, not perfection, as Rob says a lot of the time. And you, again, it was another thing you touched on. You mentioned about the community side of things, so about the coaching calls and, the events and things. How helpful have they been in your journey?
They've been really good. I actually went to the one in January. There was one of face-to-face in St Caulfield, and I found that was really good, because it was a chance to meet other people. And I must admit, before I joined, I listened to the podcast and I listened to the other members, and I have to admit, it was hearing their stories and seeing the transformations that got me excited and made me think, well, actually, I can do that. It made me think, yeah, that'll be really good. The hotel was really good, because you got to meet a lot of the other members and see them all. And then we all stayed in touch. And like I said, and the WhatsApp is good as well, because people will put comments and helpful hints as what food to have, and, and how are they getting on. And if you are struggling, you can put on there that you're struggling. I think for some members, like if people have got I've got the children at home and they're little, but I think if I was sort of on my own or whatever, I think that is essential support, because it is someone for people to reach out to. And the WhatsApps are very good for that.
Yeah, like-minded people makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, we're all facing the same challenges, and also, we can all sympathise with each other when people do fall off the bandwagon. If someone has been, and they come on and they say, "Oh, I've had a really crap day today, and I've broken it," blah blah blah, and we can all say to them, "Well, it's one day." Do you know what I mean? It helps you put things in perspective, or we can all sympathise, and we can also make each other laugh. And I think basically you can get involved as much as you want, and like I said, it's good because you've got the online stuff, but we have got the chance to do face-to-face events as well, which helps.
Yeah, it was a great event. I loved it, and to see how strong you all were. It was absolutely, it was brilliant to see how competitive you all got as well with the old deadlift challenge. I really enjoyed watching that. So.
Oh, I think people definitely become competitive. I think it's definitely, you can see where exercise can become addictive and where people really sort of get into it. And I must admit, you do feel as you're getting fitter, you do want to push yourself more. Like I said, I'm sort of determined to go heavier, and I love the fact that I'm building up the muscle.
Yeah. And so you're working on possibly going up to a barbell, but what other things are you currently working on? What's the goal for the next few months?
Basically, I want to lose another 1.5 stone, maybe. But I want to keep getting fitter and stronger, toning up. I want to get better when it comes to my lunges, or the one-sided ones. So I just want to, and obviously my goal is still to do the 3 to 4 workouts a week and just be consistent, really. I've already planned on, my membership runs out in July, and I already know I'm going to renew it, because I feel like this is a commitment. It's lifestyle rather than just, it's not a fad like some of the others. This is a case of, keeping me focused, and I do enjoy being part of Trinity, because like you said, it's a whole community. But also things like we had the menopause, there was a session on menopause support with a menopause nurse, and that was really useful. So again, it shows it's not just about diet, it's not just about exercise. You've got everything covered, and it does help me manage. I've got a busy life, busy career, and it helps me manage stress levels as well.
Yeah, that's another little avenue we explore. We do exercise, nutrition, and then there's mindset, isn't there, as you've just touched on, and how important it is to understand our stress response and be able to, I don't think we'll ever be able to get rid of stress, nor should we. We need it. It'll make us do well and make us live. But it can obviously become overwhelming, can't it? It can tip into distress. And so that's what we want to avoid. So have you found any helpful tips that you have a super busy life? Is there anything that really helps you in that area?
I think the thought transformer has helped me, basically trying to think about things differently. There was one time when my husband had wound me up and I think I could have happily stabbed him in the head. But basically I went back and did Rob's thought transformer of, okay, he's saying this, maybe this is what he actually means, basically. So it stopped me from wanting to commit murder, I think. So it has, for me, that's been really useful, the thought transformer and what's gone well today, and thinking about what's gone well and not letting things get to you. Because like I said, if you've had a crap day, I used to come home and I'd go to the chippy and buy like fish and chips and buy, like I said, have loads of chocolate. Whereas now I often, more than not, come home and will do a workout sometimes if I'm stressed in the evening, rather than eating and resorting to the chocolate.
Wow. What a transformation and what a flip, and, much more positive choice. I mean, exercise is the greatest number one reliever of stress. And to hear you use that as a tool, not just, as a punishment of getting your body into a certain shape, but to control that stress is very exciting. So final question. If there's someone out there who's on the fence, a bit like you were, of like, oh, do I join, do I not join? What would you say to them?
I'd say go ahead, invest in yourself. And I can remember hearing someone say that, and, about being in, and it is an investment in yourself because, no one else is going to. If you can't, you do what I mean? Recognise the fact that if you're stronger, you can deal with everything that comes up. Obviously, you can't help the stuff that does come up that's really difficult to deal with and whatever. But if you're fitter, it's one less thing to worry about. And also, if you don't have to worry about what you're going to wear, because one of the things that got to my point was the fact that I'd go there and I'd be there for ages trying to find something that I could fit into and something that I could wear. Whereas it's one less decision that you've got to make if you know you're going to fit into something. It's just easier. You're not there rifling through your wardrobe trying to find something and then feeling rubbish about yourself.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Lynsey. This has been such a lovely chat. It's so refreshing to hear your takes on everything, and I wish you all the best in your next part of your chapter in Trinity.
Thank you very much.
If you're fed up with trying everything and seeing no results,
watching your weight creeping up and struggling to fit into your clothes,
and you're looking for the fastest and easiest way to get your ideal weight
and never have to worry about your weight or health again,
you can save yourself years of trial and error by letting us take care of the hard work for you in our Fit Over 40 private coaching program.
Over the past decade, our world-class team have personally guided more than 7,000 women to take back control of their health and confidence, and more importantly, maintain those results for life.
If you're ready to finally get results that last and find out how we can help you do that too, click the link in the description below to get the full details now.